The rollout of Microsoft Windows 11 is not going well, largely because they are forcing AI on users. What the hell is wrong with Microsoft these days? Let's talk about it. So welcome to Dave Linthicum is Not AI. I'm Dave, an AI SME and an AI skeptic, looking at AI with a balanced perspective. Let's get started. So those of you who've followed me since the 90s, I started doing the influencer stuff and writing for different magazines out there as a tech expert, a tech SME. And the big one in the 90s was PC Magazine. I was writing a lot of the operating system reviews for PC Magazine, giving editor's choice, things like that. I covered Linux and Windows NT and OS2, remember that? And of course, the Microsoft ecosystem, including Windows 95, which led to Windows NT. So have a long history of understanding what those things do and the things they can do well and the things they do not so well. So I know what a few of you are saying. What does Windows in 1995 have to do with Windows in 2025? Well, a lot of the lessons I think we learned back in the 90s in terms of the amount of importance put on operating systems and productivity software that we're using is really kind of brought forward today. And I think in looking at what the value this stuff brings to personal work productivity is something that we need to look at. And I think Microsoft is making some core mistakes that's driving disinterest in Windows 11. So Windows 11 arrived as Microsoft's next era of the PC. It was announced in June 24, 2021, and launched publicly in October 5th of 2021. And at the time, plenty of users were still perfectly happy with Windows 10, but the timeline was always the pressure point. So mainstream Windows 10 editions like Home and Pro reached end of their support on October 14th of 2025, last year, just a few months ago, turning upgrade later into upgrade now or lose security updates. So the pressure's on. So in other words, people were kind of kicking the can down the road since this was obviously launched 4 years ago and they were using Windows 10, perfectly happy with using an operating system. And now Microsoft is basically pulling the carpet out from under them and they're going to have to figure out some way to go. So that deadline matters because Windows isn't a niche product. It's the default OS for everyday computing, and Windows 11 is now shipped with most new PC platforms sold today. And so whether or not you buy, a PC online, from a major provider, hardware maker out there, Lenovo, things like that, or buy it from Costco, you're typically going to get a Windows version or Windows operating system that comes with a platform. And it's just happened it's been like that, I think, since the 90s, since we first started buying PCs and they came with MS-DOS on them and then obviously upgraded to Windows. We're seeing the same thing these days. Of course, we saw the rise of the Apple ecosystem, and I'm kind of lock, stock, and barrel an Apple person right now, which was a competitor to the Windows platform, but still Windows makes up a great deal of the majority of PCs that are running today. And it's the way that we're driving productivity for our personal platforms, and companies are using it, governments using it, things like that. And that remains so today. So for many people, Windows 11 isn't a choice you actively made. It's what your next laptop comes with and what your IT department deploys or what you're pushed toward when Windows 10 hits the support wall, which it has done already. So the pushback is occurring now since kind of the deadline occurred, and people are looking at what Windows 11 is and what it's driving in terms of requirements. And specifically, the fact of the matter is it's kind of pushing AI, down the throats of the Windows users out there. So people who haven't asked for it or, haven't, even considered AI as a productivity tool for themselves, they're just trying to get an operating system able to run their applications and manage their storage systems, manage the security systems, things like that, are suddenly getting these AI native features that they didn't ask for. And they view these features, as a bit of digital bullying, so to speak. They're just pushing these things upon you. And everybody who uses a Microsoft product, and I still use the Microsoft Office products on my Mac ecosystem, Copilot came with it. I didn't ask for it, but it's there. But of course, Google's doing the same thing. And other large companies are basically pushing AI into all of their native operating system features if they can do it. And I think people are getting a little sick of it, and they're not feeling like they're getting the best version of the operating system for them. They feel they're getting these features pushed at them, and they didn't need them. So Windows 11 came with some hardware restrictions. The building the AI-ready baseline, TPM 2.0, secure boot, and strict CPU requirements don't just improve security, they also push users into a standardized modern platform that fits Microsoft's AI-first roadmap, leaving capable or older PCs behind and making the shift feel forced. So what Microsoft is doing, they say, well, if you want to run Windows 11, you're going to have to meet a standard in terms of CPU performance. You're going to have to meet a standard of different hardware requirements. And so if you're holding an older PC that you probably paid a lot of money for just a few years ago, it's obsolete. And so if you want to run Windows 11, which many folks that are moving or basically running the PC platform are going to be forced to move to pretty quickly. Many cases that means you're forced to buy a new PC. And of course, okay, well, PC is $1,000. What's the big deal, Dave? Well, if you're a small business or you're a large company, that drives a lot of churn. You're going to have to update, millions and millions of dollars in equipment. And in many cases, you're not going to get the equivalent value that's going to come back from those upgrades. So the interface changes, reshaping what the desktop is and how it feels. So start taskbar, widgets, move toward recommendations and content panels. And to many users, it feels like the shell is being redesigned to feature Copilot and engagement surfaces while sacrificing customization and efficiency. So many are using Windows 11, feel like their user interface has been hijacked, and what they used to be able to do and customize a great deal on the Windows 10 platform, they can't necessarily do that in Windows 11, at least not up to their satisfaction. And if you look at the interface of Windows 11, it's been redesigned around pushing AI. And it has a lot of AI native features into it. And I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to, create some sort of a value differentiator, for their operating system, which allows them to charge more and get better outcome from their investment. But users just feel they don't want it. And that's why there's a tremendous amount of pushback these days. So forced Microsoft account is also a requirement. AI needs identity and cloud. So the account, or basically signing up with Microsoft, is mandatory. So you have mandatory internet and Microsoft account setup on home, which aligns with Windows, with cloud services that power AI features, syncing, personalization, and upsells at the cost of traditional local first PC experience. So what they're doing is they're basically forcing you to get a Microsoft account. Now, many of us have it anyway, Microsoft 365. It's kind of mandated if you're going to use the Microsoft ecosystem. But it shouldn't be mandated in case of you using an operating system. And I think that's where people are pushing back on. So in other words, we're not getting a lot of personalization out of this. We're not able to use AI, I think, to the value that they think Microsoft we should be using it at. And then finally, they're just paying money or basically signing up for something they didn't ask to sign up for. And that's concerning to them. And I can understand why. So privacy and telemetry means the AI needs data. As AI expands, so do fears about diagnostic and collections. So features like recall intensify the, my PC is watching concern, especially when disabling feels unclear, incomplete, or temporary. So they're concerned about being monitored and using their operating system. And obviously there's things you can do within an operating system where you can turn off different settings, and there's bazillion YouTube videos out there on what settings to turn off in Windows 11. But it just becomes a bit of a trust issue. So in other words, if they're always having to go back after an operating system update and check the privacy settings, to make sure that their data is being kept their data, that trust is going to go out the window. So what's happening, and it's happening on other operating systems as well, that they're putting the onus on the users for keeping diligent around sharing their information and the ability to kind of play whack-a-mole around these different privacy settings that you have to update after every update. Also bugs and performance. So the core quality feels secondary. That's a big issue as well. So file explorer issues, which occurred in Windows 11, slow network sharing, and general instability land worse when users believe engineering time is going to AI to sacrifice other stability issues around the operating system. So what they feel out there, they're seeing a lot of instability within the operating system. It's not the first time we saw it. We saw unstable releases of, every Microsoft operating system, that occurred in the last 20 years. It's just kind of the way it goes. And eventually they fix the bugs and get things back in order. But it feels like they've shifted their R&D dollars and R&D and innovation spending toward the AI side of it. And so if you're not using that and you're seeing unstable operating systems, you're seeing unstable performance, you're seeing basically a lack of quality where you're getting the blue screen of death and things like that for what reason we can't figure out, it's going to seem to you that Microsoft is sacrificing your usability for their ability to basically invest in innovative features that are related to AI. And that's where people feel, a bit betrayed. In other words, I'm only considering the value of this operating system in its ability to run my stuff in a very stable way for a long period of time. That's where the value comes from. And Microsoft could be, and other tech providers are doing this as well, investing in the AI part of it, because that's the exciting part. That's where they're getting, investment credit in the industry. They're getting, their value is going up because of their AI investments being made. But if it's not of value to you, you feel you're getting ripped off. So also feature removal, changes, trade-offs for the new direction, lost or altered Windows 10 conveniences, such as, tablet mode, era flows, simpler quick actions, notification behavior, etc. Make Windows 11 feel like a downgrade designed to streamline the OS and an AI service platform. And people just come away feeling this. I hear this is kind of the most commented view of people who are reviewing Windows 11 versus coming from Windows 10, is they feel the AI stuff is getting pushed down at them, pushed down their throat, so to speak, to what one user told me. And they're not seeing the interface improvements and the operating system feature improvements from Windows 10 to 11. So in other words, it looks like a downgrade to them. It doesn't look like it's living up to their expectations in a better way. Operating system upgrades, certainly when you move from, different number versions of it, should really reflect the fact that things are improving. It should be a legitimate experience where your experience in dealing with the operating system is going to be vastly improved. It's going to be more productive. You're going to feel better when you use it. And that doesn't seem to be the case with Windows 11. So in essence, the downfall narrative is that Windows 11 is less about user control and workflow speed and more about making the PC a cloud-tethered AI product, whether users ask for it or not. And you keep hearing that over and over again. Everybody out there is not down with AI. They understand it's of value. They may use LLMs like ChatGPT, things like that, but they don't feel it should be integrated into every piece of technology they use on a daily basis. And I think all Microsoft and all of the other technical providers are basically taking this take where AI is this great revolution in technology, very much like the web was in the 90s, things like that. And we're going to make it a part of everything you touch. Make it a part of every application we sell, operating systems we sell, any kind of functionality. It's going to have some, AI stink on it, some people told me. And people don't necessarily want that. They think AI is going to have some value and they're happy with using AI, but it shouldn't be systemic to everything they do when they're operating a piece of technology. Microsoft. Well, anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments as to if this is something that's bothering you or not, or you're perfectly happy with Windows 11. But there's a lot of pushback out there right now. People are kind of up in arms about it and actually reached out to me to do this video. And so that's why I did it. And I'm actually posting this out of sequence as well. I think it's that important. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out my other videos on this channel. Also check out my InfoWorld Cloud Computing blog, my 100+ LinkedIn learning courses, and of course, my generative AI architecture course out on Go Cloud Careers. And finally, my latest books, Unlocking the Power of Cloud and An Insider's Guide to Cloud Computing. So until next week, stay very, very safe. The magical YouTube algorithm thinks this is another one of my videos that you should watch now. Take care, guys.